the first things that I did when I found out I was pregnant with my son was I began building expectations about what his life would be like, about what my life would be like, about what our family life would be like. And the further I went into pregnancy, the more deeply those expectations embedded in my psyche. I had this very clear vision of what our life would be like. And for parents that discover during pregnancy or after their baby is born that their baby has special needs, those expectations in many ways dissolve. They're shattered because the life that you thought you were all going to lead no longer exists in many ways. Of course, there's still going to be the love and there's so much beauty that can be found, but there is a great shock. And typically parents move through the 7 stages of grief when they allow themselves to. So the discovery of special needs can be a very, very intense process. And I want to clarify that although I did not experience that with my son, I've supported a lot of parents that have babies with special needs. For about a year, I volunteered in the home of a family that had a baby with really severe special needs. He couldn't swallow, he couldn't blink, he couldn't cry, he couldn't really move on his own. And being able to be with that family and that baby was one of the most impactful experiences of my life. I've never met a family that's more amazing, especially the mom. I learned so much from them. And so I say all that because I don't want anybody to think that I'm an expert in this, but I felt like the information that I learned from her is so important, and I want to share it in hopes that it's helpful to somebody. And I also want to clarify that because I have not personally gone through the experience of having a baby with special needs, I fully understand that I'll never know unless I eventually have a baby with special needs. I'll never know exactly what that experience is like. So I'm just sharing what I've learned from people much stronger than me. All right, so with that said, something that can typically happen, as I mentioned before, at least when parents first find out they have a baby with special needs, is they try to suppress the 7 stages of grief that are trying to come up because they feel guilty. They feel guilty that they feel anything but gratitude that their baby is alive, and they feel like they don't deserve to give attention to those 7 stages of grief. And I don't believe that you should feel any guilt if you have that grief come up, because you do need to grieve. You need to grieve the child that you thought you were going to have. You need to grieve the life that you thought you were all going to lead in order to make room for the life and the child that you do have, and to make that a beautiful path. You need to grieve what you've lost so you can appreciate what you have. So with that said, surrender to the 7 stages of grief. Allow yourself to really, really go there. Allow yourself to rage, to journal, to cry, to feel that shock, that denial, that anger, the bargaining, the depression, and then the reconciliation, which is the finding solutions that leads to then acceptance. So it's a process. And one way that you can help yourself move through that is taking, even if you can just get 30 minutes to an hour each day where your partner's with the baby, or if your baby is still in the hospital, going to a private space, even your car, and again, allowing yourself to move through whatever stage of grief you're moving through. And not that 30 minutes or an hour is enough to move through a full stage of grief, but it's this uninterrupted time where you can fully let it go. You're not trying to suppress anything, you are letting it flow. And each time you let that happen, you're creating more space for that that love and acceptance to come in. And again, you're getting one step closer to that eventual acceptance. All right. Something else that can be so incredibly helpful is finding a community that understands what you are going through. So I once worked with a woman that had a child with Down syndrome, and she was very honest. She's like, sometimes I can't stand being around people that had the child that they expected to have. They just don't get it. The stuff that they say is just so off base, like they just don't understand. And she's like, I also get really jealous that they're not dealing with the same issues that I'm dealing with. They just drive me crazy. And eventually, once she shared this with her care provider, the care provider connected her with a support group that had other parents, families with children with Down syndrome. And she has been going to that group for about 3 years now. And she told me, she's like, I feel like they're more my family than my blood relatives because they get it. They know what I'm going through. We help each other find good care providers. We help each other emotionally. We do birthday parties for our kids. I mean, it has become her family, and it helps to normalize her experience. It makes her feel seen and heard. Her child is thriving in that group. So finding a community that understands your unique circumstances can be really amazing. Communicating with your partner. So some partners, they do this thing where they try to hide their emotions in favor of like being strong for their partner, thinking if like I'm stoic and strong that it'll be easier for them. But in so many ways, what's the most supportive is being open and raw and vulnerable with your partner and saying, I am hurting too. I'm mad at this situation too, or whatever you're feeling, to share with them. They are your partner in everything. And this is an especially important time to be open with each other and to grieve together. And grieving together helps to normalize that experience that you're having, your inward experience. So, for example, if you're feeling anger and resentment towards the situation, if your partner says, "Oh God, I'm feeling that too," you could give yourself permission to not feel guilty about that anymore. You're like, oh my God, this is normal. They're feeling it as well. I'm not a monster for having these feelings. So share with your partner as much as you can. Also understand that acceptance will come and go. So finding acceptance is not a linear process. It's not like once you find the acceptance, you'll always have it and it'll never go away. As you move through the seasons of your life, the acceptance will like be really solid, and then it might dissolve, and then you'll find your way back to it. You know, for example, when your child is of school age and you're having to make a lot of transitions, you might go through a phase where you lose some acceptance for your situation. But the good news is when you're actively, you know, finding that community, practicing ways to find acceptance, it'll become hopefully easier and easier to find your way back to it. But to know that there's nothing wrong with you if sometimes you slip out of that state of acceptance and need to move through the 7 stages of grief again. To not punish yourself for feeling resentment. As I said before, feeling angry at these circumstances is really normal. And it doesn't mean that you are some ungrateful monster. It means that you're a human. Seeking support so you can nurture yourself. So children with special needs, I mean, just any babies need an exceptional amount of care, but when your baby has special needs as well, it can take a lot of your time, and it can sometimes be hard for parents to take care of, you know, their basic needs to really nurture themselves. So it can be really important to reach out for help, to make sure you and your partner are equally sharing parenting responsibilities. You can seek out a respite providers. And these are people that can come into your home to support with your baby. You can help to train friends and family members on how to care for your baby. With the family that I was talking about, I was trained on how to support their baby's special needs. So there are people out there that want to help and can help. Another thing, learning as much as you can about your baby's special needs. The more you immerse yourself in their mental, physical, emotional needs, it can help you transition into your new reality and feel more empowered. Feel like I understand I understand what's happening, and I understand how to move forward. And then something really beautiful that you can do eventually, once you get into that space of acceptance, is create new dreams for your family. While those dreams will probably look different from the dreams you had when you were pregnant, before you knew that your baby had special needs, there are still amazing, beautiful possibilities out there. And it is your right to craft those new dreams. And I mentioned this a little bit before, but finally, prepare yourself for receiving unsolicited advice and platitudes from people that really don't know what you're going through. I hope that I'm not doing that in this video. If I am, I apologize. There will be people that will be insensitive and are trying to say the right thing, but just don't know what it is, and they end up saying something hurtful. That is part of the process. And you can, be gracious with those people, but you don't have to. You can also say, what you just said is not helpful, and please don't say that to me again. It's like, you don't have to tiptoe around other people's feelings. You can protect your own feelings and let people know how you're feeling, and what they say and do that's not helpful, and what they can say and do that would be helpful. Speak up for yourself. All right, I hope this was helpful. I have a long list of resources for organizations that are so incredible with supporting parents with babies with children of special needs. Please let me know in the comments below if you would like me to provide you with additional resources. Sending you so much love.